welcome back to my channel. So 3 years ago I bought a couple of orchids from Amazon, and you don't typically think of plants or orchids when you think of Amazon, but 3 years ago when I was expanding my collection, I went from having a dozen orchids to having over 200 orchids. I ordered a bunch of orchids from Amazon. And some of it was good, some of it was not so good. I still have some of those orchids 3 years later, and I'm gonna show you how it went. So let's jump right in. So why did I buy orchids from Amazon? Well, if you want nurseries where you could buy plenty of good orchids, check out this link right here. There's plenty of orchid nurseries that have fantastic plants and they're very reputable. When you order from Amazon, you're kind of like, you don't know what you're gonna get. So I'm gonna share what I've learned in buying from these vendors, and I'm gonna name them as well in case you're looking to buy some orchids. When you're buying from Amazon, typically you buy an assortment of different orchids. They may not be listed. You may get some assortments of orchids that are not identified. A lot of growers don't like that, but some growers are okay with that. So if you kind of want a mixed bag of things, that's a good thing. If you're very specific in what you want to avoid Amazon. So the first orchids that I bought, I got a Dentrobium set. So it was a set of 2 Dentrobiums from a vendor called Aquatic Arts. I paid $29.94 and I got 2 Dentrobium orchids. One of them was a no ID orchid and the other one was a Dentrobium phalaenopsis orchid. I will say that this order was a success. The Dentrobium nobile orchid bloomed for me 3 times, so it bloomed every single year since I got it, which is amazing. And then I was able to identify it after it bloomed. The Dentrobium phalaenopsis orchid was also, it bloomed, but it grew so big that I ended up giving it away. These 2 were a success, but when I received them, one of them had very, very broken down bark. They both came in bark, but one of them was so broken down, it was like a powder. And there were like these nasty worms in there. It was so gross to me. I remember I wasn't even using gloves. I know, I should always use gloves. But I had to get gloves for it because they had these like roly-poly type things and these white long bugs all over. They weren't earthworms, but they were all over. It was very invasive. They were not earthworms. They were some sort of worm. They were white. They were fuzzy. They were all over. And I had to get rid of those. And but once I got that out, put it into fresh media, I never had that problem again. The other one was totally fine. The media was not broken down, but overall, for $29.34, I'd say it was a success. 1 no ID, my Dentrobium nobile, which has an ID now, and then 1 with an ID, and they were overall healthy, just 1 had media that was broken down. So I ordered from another vendor as well, called Angel Orchids, and I ordered twice from them, and they sell seedlings, and they're still available on Amazon, by the way. You could still order from them, but they sell packs of 5 orchid seedlings, and you get an assortment of different kinds. The first time I ordered was in June of 2020, and I got 5 different plants. I was waiting for 2 weeks and I never got my order. So I reached out to them and they said, oh, sorry, we'll send you some bigger plants because we were running behind. So it took me about 3 weeks to get the order, and I got some pretty nice orchids. This was actually a great order. I got a bunch of Oncidiums. I got the Oncidium Diem Parquet Uptown Girl. That was an Oncidium. It came in a little plug. Ended up growing very nicely for me. Ended up blooming, grew very, very well, and I ended up giving it away because it got so big, but that was a success. So that was nice. I didn't have that many Oncidiums. Oncidiums for me are very easy to grow. I potted it up in sphagnum moss and perlite, I remember, in a clay pot. It was just drying so fast and growing so quickly, I ended up giving it away. But that was a beautiful, beautiful orchid. I got a Shari Baby Red Fantasy as well. And those of you who have Sherry babies, also known as the chocolate orchid, you guys know that they grow really well. They're very vigorous. And at that point, I already had a Sherry baby, and I had a Heaven Sent Sweet baby as well. So I was like, I don't need another Sherry baby. I ended up blooming it, and I gave it away to another YouTuber out in Colorado. So she's growing that one now. It bloomed for her, but that was also a success. I just find that Oncidiums here in New York City, they tend to do really well. In sphagnum moss, in clay pots, that was a success. And then I got a third Oncidium, and this was probably the most vigorous one of all of the Oncidiums. So I got the Miltonia Kismet Kind Kai. I grew that in sphagnum moss, and I ended up transitioning it into Leca, and it just kept pushing out bulb after bulb after bulb. It bloomed, it had a really nice fragrance. It was as vigorous as the Sherry baby, and those of you who have it know that that one is really, really, really vigorous. So once again, because I expanded my collection so quickly, it grew so big that I just gave it away to someone in Florida, and they're taking care of it now. I gave it away to Vin's kids, who actually gave me my Cattleya Mark Jones by Richard Mueller. So we swapped a couple of orchids, and he's growing that. Check him out on Instagram. He keeps showing the blooms on that orchid every single year, but that was a tiny little seedling off Amazon. The next two, the next one was actually very successful as well. This order was actually really decent, and this was $42.99, so it came with 5. Comes out to about, you know, less than $10 each. So far, 3 Oncidiums, all 3 of them bloomed. I didn't know what they were gonna be though, but they all bloomed. And then I got a Cattleya and I got a Dendrobium. So the next one that I got was a very complex hybrid. Wasn't registered, it was like the Cattleya Oceone Sunset Sail, crossed by Love Sound, Pachi Pachi. It had a really long name. I will put it below. It took me 3 years, but I bloomed it. So I had no idea what it was gonna look like. Very, very, very complex hybrid. And when it bloomed, I was so happy. It gave me these beautiful pink flowers with a very ruffled lip. And it was fragrant as well. It smelled like money. So I remember I stuck my nose into it, and it smelled like a crisp $100 bill, which was pretty cool. Never smelled a Cattleya like that. Really, really, really cool. Because I have so many, I ended up giving that away to a friend in Florida. Hi Maria, you're probably watching. But I have so many pink Cattleyas that I was like, which ones do I hold on to? And I have so many that look alike that it's hard for me to decide, okay, which one do I keep versus not keep? So I gave that one away. It was so beautiful. It took me 3 years to bloom it. It was a division, so it wasn't a seedling per se. It was actually a division of a small division. So it wasn't too bad. It wasn't tiny. It was quite vigorous already. So that was a good one. The last one was a Dendrobium that I got. And a disclaimer that I'll say with seedlings is that it's hit or miss. Sometimes they do well, sometimes they don't do well. It just really depends on the vigor of the plant. And this next one was the Dendrobium Burana Sapphire by Pink Natasha. That one gave me trouble for about a year. I grew it, and it just kept getting spider mites. And that's a big sign when your orchid's not very vigorous. I don't blame the vendor because it was healthy when I received it. I just blame the vigor of the plant. So it wasn't great. It pretty much died. It kept getting spider mite attacks. None of my other plants got it. That's a sign when you keep getting spider mites on a plant that it's not as vigorous as the others. So that one ended up dying. Okay, my last order from Amazon was from the same vendor, Angel's Orchids. I got a set of 5 again. I got this in August of 2020. And I got seedlings. They arrived sooner than the last order though, but they were smaller. So remember, I was delayed, so they were like, let us send you some bigger plants. I was like, cool, great. But this last order that I did, they actually sent me actual seedlings. The first one that I got was a Phalaenopsis, and I still have it, and I actually showed it in my last video. So I got a no ID purple Phalaenopsis orchid. It was tiny. It had no ID, just showed a picture of a purple flower. When it bloomed, it was actually a pink flower, and it's one of my prettiest pink Phalaenopsis orchids. It's a complex hybrid. It has a nice cascade of flowers, beautiful, love it. That was nice. That was a really nice surprise. When it spiked and bloomed, I was very thrilled with it, and no complaints about that one. Then I got the Vanda Banjong Sky Blue. So I got that pretty small. I grew it in semi-water culture in the beginning, and then I moved it to a cup, and then I just gave it wet dry cycles. Unfortunately, the roots got covered in algae and a lot of them died off, so I ended up potting it up into a clay pot, and I still have it. It hasn't bloomed yet. I've had it for 3 years, so we'll see how it goes. But I got that one relatively small. We'll see how big it gets. Hopefully it survives, because it lost a lot of roots when I repotted it and realized that the roots had died off, but we'll see how it goes. Otherwise, it arrived healthy. No issues with that. Then I got a Dendrobium Golden Brown by Tanaté Blue. I still have that Dendrobium. It is an unregistered, unknown hybrid really, but when it flowered, I was surprised to see that it had fragrance. A lot of Dendrobium Phalaenopsis orchids don't have fragrance, and I still have it. It's gotten quite tall. Like if I show you the before and after, you'll see that it was a tiny seedling, and then now it's this big old Dendrobium plant, and I don't have room for big Dendrobiums much anymore, but I'm gonna keep that one because I like the fragrance. So the vigor on that one was really good, and I was very happy with it. The next one was kind of like the other Dendrobium. It was the Dendrobium Lemon Pink. It was never vigorous for me. It never did well. I wouldn't say it was a vendor thing, because when it arrived it looked healthy, but it just kept getting spider mites just like the other Dendrobium, and it never thrived for me. It died a very slow death. It took 2 years for it to die. If you compared the growth between the Golden Brown Tanaté Blue and the Lemon Pink by Dendrobium Hollywood, the name was, one grew, the other one stayed small, so I knew it was never gonna really thrive for me. It took 2 years to die. It's a bummer, but that's how it be sometimes, y'all. The last one was another one that was not vigorous, but this one is a Cattleya. So this one is the BLC Wine Leopard crossed with the BLC George King Serendipity. It was never vigorous for me. This one took 3 years to die, so I repotted it and there was nothing there. It just crumbled. The roots were all dead. It never really grew. It's unfortunate too, because I like the BLC Wine Leopard and I like the George King. So that they both have really nice fragrance. So I was hoping to see what it would look like. I of course had no choice in this mix, but I was excited to see that there was a cross between those two. So what can you do? So those overall, I had good success ordering orchids off Amazon. It's a place that you don't really think to order orchids. Angel Orchids, they still sell seedlings on their Amazon website. You can go check them out. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I just thought it'd be interesting to share my experience in buying plants and orchids from a non-nursery. But I had good success with Angel's Orchids. Their plants were healthy overall. I bloomed several of them 3 years later. So if you guys want to give it a try, the only thing you have to know is that you're not going to know what you're going to get. You're going to get seedlings, which can be hit or miss when you grow them. Some are vigorous, some are not vigorous, so that's something to keep in mind. But otherwise, I'm very happy with what I ordered, aside for the Dendrobium really that I got. They were healthy, but it was in very broken down media and had a lot of worms in it. And I'm telling you, there weren't earthworms. There were these weird, creepy, I don't want to remember. There weren't even worms. There were these, I'll never forget it. I remember I was disgusted repotting it. Anyway, guys, we will end on a positive note. So far, ordering orchids from Amazon was a success for me. If you guys want specific orchids, Amazon is not the place to get them, but if you want some variety, you want to be surprised, you want some cheap seedlings, and you want to raise them randomly, then Amazon could be a fun place where you can get them. Angel Orchids is cool. Aquatic Arts, I don't think they sell orchids anymore, but those were the two vendors that I got it from on Amazon. And if you guys are looking for specific orchids, check out my where to buy orchids link down below for some reputable nurseries. And there you can certainly pick and choose the orchids. And if anything goes wrong, you could talk to the vendors and they usually work really well with you. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.